All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our workshop entitled Beyond Elder Law, Life Care Planning. We're so happy that you've decided to join us this afternoon, and we can't wait to provide you with this exclusive information and these resources that will give you a deeper understanding of Clinkscales and our services. I would like to invite you all to type any questions that you may have in the chat box that's located at the bottom of your screen throughout the entire presentation. And then at the end of the hour, we will address any of those questions or concerns that you may have. So without any further ado, we're just going to jump right into it, and I'm going to hand it over to our attorney, Mr. Randy Clinkscales, to get us started.
Thank you, Emily. Just real excited about our topic today. And if you don't know, this is really kind of the core of what my office does. While we do some estate planning and some other collateral things to that, life care planning is what we really do and what's really important to us in terms of our mission, if you will. And so let me talk a little bit about myself. I'm an attorney. I have offices in Hayes and Wichita. I have two partners, Jenny Walters and Adam Deese. Again, our focus is on elder law, but really taking it to a different level. My journey into elder law really had to do with taking care of my grandmother and the lessons that I learned from that. Took care of her for about 10 years. I was already a lawyer. I'd been a lawyer for over 20 years at that time, and I took care of her for 10 years. But much of our life care planning model is really designed around the services that were needed and that we provided to my grandmother. And you're going to learn a little bit about the difference here. So what you're going to learn today is that estate planning and typical elder law do not address the full needs of the aging or chronic care issues, and that's what I experienced with my grandmother. But also that to understand health issues, it really takes an informed, engaged consumer. I'm not that person. When I go to the doctor, my wife sends me with a list of questions to ask. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm not unusual, frankly. Third, you're going to learn today about financial planning looks a lot different when you're planning for the future or for existing aging and chronic care issues. And then life care planning provides a guide that puts all of those together through the legal, financial, and health maze of aging and chronic illness. So let's start off with distinguishing typical estate planning and traditional elder law. Estate planning is really a program, a transactional type of practice where you go see the attorney and he prepares your estate plan. And that could be the will, powers of attorney, a trust, whatever. Unfortunately, the typical estate planning attorney is not equipped, and I don't want to say not interested in, but really is not equipped to understand a chronic illness and what that looks like and how that may be important. Certainly in the estate planning process, there's no caregiver support, understanding how to pay for care and the like. Traditional elder law, let me speak to that. So Medicaid was passed in the 60s, about 1965. A practice of law was developed called elder law, that really was focused on helping people obtain public benefits, and nothing wrong with that. But it really focused on Medicaid and asset protection. It involved impoverishment. But again, it was transactional, or is transactional. So a friend of mine uses the terms treat and street. So you would treat whatever problem they have, push them back out on the street. But nothing was being addressed in terms of care issues to nursing homes or to the family. In fact, like care issues in a nursing home really developed into another type of practice in the malpractice area. But the traditional elder law wouldn't necessarily address that. Then the other side was that after this contact, whether it's with an estate planning lawyer or an elder lawyer, the next contact with the lawyer is really at death. So there's this gap between the traditional providing the service and then sending them out, getting on Medicaid or whatever. And then the next contact with the lawyer would be through death for a probate or trust administration, estate recovery, and the like. So what's missing in that process? It's really really there's no attempt to understand the illness, learn about community resources, the disease process, the standard of care, like in a nursing home or in-home care, proper placement, how to access health insurance, Medicare, VA benefits. All of those types of things are not part of things that the traditional elder law is going to be doing, or the traditional estate planner is going to be doing. So as I said in the previous slide, it's really having a navigator that's going to help find care options, payor sources like Medicare, life insurance, and the like. How to stay off of Medicaid or how to get on Medicaid, when to buy, when to not buy long-term care insurance, look at alternatives to long-term care insurance. I'm going to use an example today, and I certainly have changed the name, but this is actually an ongoing case. Mr. and Mrs. Hall, this is 2004, came in to see us. They were in their early 80s, living on a farm in a rural area. They had an older home that was built around 1900. They had 3 sons, but only one's in Kansas. And I say that about the older home because it was not handicap accessible. They want to pass the farm on to the sons and grandsons. They had a special need grandson that they needed to address. They wanted to stay at home, but Mr. Hall was showing signs of being forgetful. And so the comment that they made to me was, we want to be sure we don't lose everything if one of us gets sick. We want to be sure our spouse is protected. And we're going to visit them again here in a moment. So to understand, I want to talk, the second point is being an informed, engaged consumer of health services. In planning with a client, it's really important for me to understand what they're going through healthcare wise. And so let's talk about a little bit of the gap that has occurred. So historically, medicine is based on the chronic care model, evolved eventually to what's called the care model, but it's based on having an informed, activated patient. In other words, the patient knows what's there knows what's wrong, and knows what alternatives are available to them, how to access those alternatives, and then how to use them and make them part of their life. In a chronic care model, the patient has to be engaged. And that means that there are certain actions that the individual must take to obtain the greatest benefit available to them. So I had my shoulder operated on in January, which is great. But if I don't actively follow the routine of rehabilitation, then a lot of that surgery is going to be for naught. So that's what this is really talking about. And that's certainly mine's a real simple situation, but on a complex situation, it becomes more important. So again, it's dependent upon an informed, activated patient. But the question is, who is the contact team responsible for? And I'll respectfully suggest to you that the contact team, and I'm talking about the healthcare provider, and who do they report to? Well, they report to the doctor. They're reporting their obligations. While there are obligations to the patient, their obligations are to really report up the chain versus to the patient. So the chronic care model relies on health literacy, but I thought this is a really interesting statement. 12% of Americans are proficient in competency tasks considered essential to successfully navigate the health system and act on health information. It's 12%. Barely 1 out of 10 people are able to navigate the healthcare system and act on health information. So it's a lack of knowledge of medical conditions that people run into, difficulty completing basic forms, and as a result, they're less likely to use preventative services, less likely to manage their condition, more likely to have more hospital admissions, more likely to have more visits to the emergency room. So what's the care model missing? It's missing how to tell people to find payor sources to help them pay for their services. What community sources would be available. They don't engage the family. Many times the family may just be a spouse, when many times the spouse may have their own issues. There's no legal guidance. There's no medical advocacy. Certainly, the patient doesn't know how to advocate for themselves with their physician, with the staff that they're working with. So let's go back to the halls for a minute. So we're going to fast forward to 2018, 2020. Mr. Hall is developing full-blown dementia. He cannot be left alone. He follows Mrs. Hall around and has started to wander, starting to get real repetitious in his talking. Mrs. Hall, crying, said, "I'm exhausted. My husband is up and down throughout the night. I don't understand what I need to do." And kind of understand, she was, visiting doctors, visiting a neurologist, doing all of that sort of stuff, but was really coming to us for the guidance. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. So let's talk a little bit about the financial side of it. So, when I do if I do an estate plan for like one of my kids, they're in their 30s, when I'm talking to them about financial products, and I don't sell financial products, so I don't want anyone to misunderstand that. but their planning, it looks a lot different than when I have the Halls come to me. We're going to do a lot different planning because of their age and because of what's going on with them healthcare wise. So historically, financial planning is generally designed for growth and income, which are great goals, but sometimes that may be inappropriate. Many times the financial people, and I'm talking about financial investors, investment advisors, could be accountants, those people that are help managing the money for the people. Many times they don't know what they don't know. And so they may say, Mr. and Mrs. Hall, you need to go get a trust. Joe down the street will do it for X dollars. Or you need to get a power of attorney. There's no need for you to go pay a lawyer. You can look on a website and pay $50 or whatever. And so it again, not taking into account what those tools, supposed tools, how they may impact the planning for that person in the future. And we talk about this in our office about how do we help people like that not go step on those minefields of bad investing or bad documents. So when we're talking with somebody like the Halls, we're not talking about growing. We're not talking about necessarily income. Certainly we do need income, but for different purposes. And so the planning is not all about investing. It's sometimes the investment people may not understand. They have some tools that the client may have had for a long time, like old life insurance policies that we can actually turn into long-term care insurance. They don't understand that there are certain products that would prevent somebody from getting on Medicaid or a VA pension. They certainly don't understand many of the Medicare rules and how to take advantage of some of those rules. As an example, to stay to get your health services paid for while you're at a skilled level, at a skilled facility. And they certainly don't understand the disease process. And I think part of them feels like it's not their business, but it really becomes important. So let's take the Hall family again. And so let's move up to this year. They've been a life care plan since 2004. Along our journey, we were able to protect their land. We, as Mr. Hall got more frail, as the dementia really set in, we moved him into a safe place and accessed his long-term care insurance to pay for that. We actually then helped Mrs. Hall find a place in town here to be near her son, and moved her to an accessible home. And what really is helpful we've got everything set up so there's not going to be any kind of probate. But I think for Mrs. Hall's peace of mind, which is really helpful to her, is that we monitor Mr. Hall's care. And we report back to her how he's doing. But we also have given a lot of tools to Mrs. Hall as a caregiver, because she's still going to take him out. She's still going to drive him out to the farm. She's still going to be doing some of that sort of stuff. And how do we do that safely? So here's a comment from Mrs. Hall, and this was, frankly, just a few weeks ago. I don't know what we would have done without you. I'm so glad we started on this a long time ago. I am sleeping again. Then I also want to share with you, because we did a lot with their finances using a financial advisor. That was very helpful in the process, but it was fairly complicated because of farm ground. We sold some farm ground. We bought a house. We did some things like that. And again, yeah, I understand Mr. and Mrs. Hall had some farm ground that was important, but they were not anywhere near what I would consider rich. My grandmother, when I took care of her, had a house and $60,000. So the plan, the life care plan, is different for every person, but we can fit it within the means of that person. And so the financial advisor, I wanted to share this with you. We set up some funds for protection and some funds for monthly expenses. And then recently he said, Randy, your job does the best job of helping clients that we've ever seen. Everything is done correctly, and you follow through to make sure that the rest of us get our job done. And the idea there is that, it's one thing to write a letter to the financial advisor and say, do this. It's another thing to make sure that that actually gets done. So, we want to talk to them about, options to pay for care. So let's transition into the life care plan. So the life care plan provides a guide for families through the legal, financial, and health maze of aging and chronic care issues. And this is actually a definition of life care planning from the Life Care Planning Law Firm Association. Basically, it talks about, it's a holistic approach where the center of the puzzle is the person and the person with a chronic illness and their family. And everything needs to connect to them. It needs to coordinate with them. And so it intertwines health, financial, and legal issues. A lot of times we like to use this chart with our family to help them identify where they were. And so many times if you look at the very top line, it talks about, goes from no function limits to significant limited functions. My grandmother was very close to that when I took over her care and moved her into assisted living. So 6 years I kept her at home, 4 years in assisted living. But what was interesting is after I moved her to assisted living, she actually gained more function. And so she moved to the left, if you will. She used a walker, but she could get around quickly with that walker. But I really think just being in a good facility, getting good care, taking her medications appropriately, and having an advocate for her so that she can remain an individual with individual rights. And that's done through our care coordinators. And so our care coordinators help our clients and our families identify care problems, and they assist in solving them. They assist the families in identifying and arranging in-home help or other services. And they'll review the medical issues and offer referrals to other geriatric specialists to provide appropriate care while conserving financial resources. The care coordinator coordinates with medical and healthcare providers. They provide support, guidance, and advocacy during a crisis, and they offer counseling and support. They help the families with education. I think that's really important. People come in and, we had somebody in the other day that their dad's got dementia and some other stuff. And finally it dawned on us in the middle of the conversation that he actually has a disease called Lewy bodies. And so we're able to educate them on that and ask them to go back and talk to their doctor about, could this be the actual diagnosis? And it was. And the reason that's important is that the trajectory on Lewy bodies is much quicker than irregular dementia. So you see a lot of things happening really, really fast with somebody with Lewy bodies. And so our planning needs to be really, really quick. And we may need to do stuff on an emergency basis with them. But they help our families, our life care coordinators, help our families access Medicare with wellness visits, depression screening, diabetic screening. They help them access the services under long-term care policies. So who benefits from the life care plan? Certainly the person or persons with a chronic illness. Anytime a person has a health condition that potentially impacts their ability to care for themselves, that's a person that really needs a life care plan. So when I was taking care of my grandmother, when she got to the point where she was falling at home, and I had to bring someone in to check on her, that was really a sign to me that she was aging and was at risk. And so it was time to set up a plan for her. Caregivers also benefit. And again, I pick on myself. The life care plan helped me as a caregiver take better care of my grandmother. It has helped Mrs. Hall and her son, the care coordinators, to be a better caregivers for Mr. Hall, to assure that he's got quality care and having a person knowledgeable to turn to when problems arise. So things are going to come up. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And as you're progressing, and having an advocate like a care coordinator can be really important. The families then have a peace of mind that knowing that a professional expert is a phone call away. Again, pick on myself. My care coordinator told me when it was time to transition my grandmother to hospice. I think I was fighting that. The care coordinator can watch for elder abuse, reduce impact of staff turnover, like at a facility. They have understanding of the disease process and stages, and can provide independent advice to families. I think it's real important. I know sometimes our care coordinators will actually work with healthcare providers on helping them understand the disease process and some tools that we have learned. So as an example, our care coordinators have gone through dementia training, more extensive than many nursing homes have. And so to be able to educate the healthcare providers like the aides and so forth, to give them tools is really important. But I think also it really is an opportunity for the care coordinator to interpret and educate the family about what the healthcare providers are really saying to them. And by doing so, then we can reduce readmissions, which is a big thing under Medicare. We can assure appropriate placement when a person needs to be discharged. We get a lot of phone calls when people are about to be discharged. We can increase the likelihood of success at home by using the care coordinators. We can reduce Medicare penalties that a healthcare provider could be hit with because of readmissions. And we can coordinate with the discharge planners on what would be appropriate to keep that person from needing to come back. Accountants and financial planners can really also benefit from the life care plan in the sense that they can know when they see signs of a chronic illness in one of their clients, how they can refer them to someone like us that will then bring in that accountant and financial planner to design the right type of tools for that person given their chronic conditions. Here's a good example of the life cycle of the life care planning process. Typically, the first meeting, they're going to meet with the attorney and the care coordinator. We're going to visit a lot about their medical status. We want to educate them about the illness from a broad sense. We want to, start looking at what financial planning they've done, estate planning, look at all of that, and then develop what we call an action plan about what steps need to be done and when they need to be done and who's going to be doing them. And then we want to follow up with them. It says a 6-month follow-up. Typically it's probably more like 30 days. But we may want to access VA benefits. If there are care issues, we're going to work on that. We want to at least annually do a new assessment of that client, watch for changes in their financial situation. Sometimes we have to go on Medicaid, and how do we do that, or how can we avoid it? If there's a placement, then that's really a key job of the care coordinators, is to help the family with that placement, and then to continue to monitor the person in the facility, and again, educate the family on what they should be expecting in terms of quality care. And sometimes, we have to tell clients the care is not good and that we may need to move that person. Our job is not to sue facilities. Our job is for our clients to get good care. So far today, I want to talk to you. I know there's some people on here that are financial people. There are some people that are on here, healthcare providers, and that's okay. But let me talk to you as if you were a potential client. And so if you have someone that you know that is dealing with a chronic illness, but is not doing appropriate planning, this would be what I would say to them. That, you've discovered that the life care plan provides certain benefits. The individual and the family has a professional team to guide them through the aging and chronic care maze. The life care plan involves coordination with financial planning professionals to use your resources most efficiently. And life care planning helps you get better care. So with proper care and planning, families can delay or avoid the nursing home. And if a nursing home is necessary, they have an advocacy of a knowledgeable team. So I hope you get this one thing, and that life care plan is for any family dealing with aging and chronic illness issues. Proper planning can preserve assets and help ensure better healthcare results. So how do you make that happen? We're actually going to schedule, if you're interested, we're going to schedule a meeting with you. It's going to take 60 to 90 minutes. And we're at that, it can be in person or by Zoom or by telephone with me or one of our other 2 attorneys. At the meeting, we'll discuss your aging and chronic care issues and review your current estate plan and your current financial plan. We want to review your concerns regarding preserving, protecting your assets and your wishes. And we want to discuss what your family support system is. How can we help them? Are we relying on them too much? What is it that we need to do? We welcome and encourage incorporating into the meeting or at a later time your financial plan or advisor. We want to review the healthcare advice that you're receiving, and we want to discuss the journey that you're on, and we'll answer anything about your unique situation. And at the end of that time together, you'll have a better clarity of your issues and goals. We'll establish a long-term goal for you and help establish a plan for your journey. And at the end of that meeting, we'll have a really good idea about what documents and other tools that we need to get into place, and what we need to do with your financial planner or advisor, or even with your healthcare people, to be sure that you're getting the best possible results. And so after the meeting, you'll decide to get started, and you'll meet with one of our care coordinators. We'll schedule an assessment in person or virtually, and we'll prepare all the necessary legal documents that reflect your goals and objectives. We'll then have another meeting to review and sign and implement the plan and the documents and all the tools that we need to have in place. And then but again, we continue on implementing other tools and steps based on how your illness, your chronic illness continues to develop. But more importantly, we're going to walk you through this process from start to finish. So typically we have a $450 fee, but because you attended today, that strategy session with you will be free. Too good to be true, what's the catch? We've only got 7 spots available in the next 4 weeks. And so to book your strategy session, call this number 877-325-8040. We'll also send you a SurveyMonkey link. So you can click on that and somebody will call you, or you can call this number. So here's my guarantee. You're going to know more than you did before today. You'll have an analysis of what happens if you do nothing, and your time's not going to be wasted. So to get your free strategy session, call this number 877-325-8040, or click on the SurveyMonkey that Emily is going to send you after this meeting. And if you do, then I'm going to send you a small book that I wrote called Life Care Planning, The Ultimate Guide for Your Journey, written in large part about my journey with my grandmother. And then also a written summary of our recommendations. So remember, you get the free strategy session, an analysis of your current plan, a free written report to achieve your goals, and the free book, Life Care Planning, The Ultimate Guide for Your Journey. Okay, Emily, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, so it doesn't look like we have any additional questions in the chat box at this moment, but please do go ahead and feel free to add your question now as we are wrapping up our presentation this afternoon. I want to kindly remind everyone that you will receive that follow-up email that Randy mentioned that will contain the important things. The email will include a recording of this session, and we provide that to you. That way you can share it with family, friends, colleagues that weren't able to make the session today. Also, you can go back through and take notes on this important topic. The second thing that this email will contain is that SurveyMonkey link that Randy mentioned, and I'm putting that in the chat box right now, so you can go ahead and fill that out now if that's more convenient for you, whereas waiting. And like he mentioned, if you fill out that quick 2-minute survey, you will receive that completely free strategy session where you will speak with one of our attorneys about your unique situation. On that same survey link, you can also request our free book that Randy mentioned, Life Care Planning, the Ultimate Guide for Your Journey. And I do want to reiterate that you can call our office at any time at that number located on your screen. If you have questions regarding the free strategy session or book or any other questions, we are always happy to chat with you. I would also invite you all to stay up to date on our upcoming events on our website, and I'll go ahead and put that in the chat box now as well. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions coming through right now. So I think with that, we are going to go ahead and close down. And thank you all so much for your attendance today. Thank you so much, Randy, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emily.
Have a great afternoon. Bye.